Whatever.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome to the Windup, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show. I am Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We got a jam-packed show. We're breaking down the midweek slate, of course, that was, and this is the final weekend of the 2025 season without SEC play. Final non-conference weekend of the season. Of course, the first weekend, I guess you could say, entering in the month of March, full weekend, if you will, in the month of March. Either way, the final one without SEC baseball, conference on conference battles. Really excited again. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. As always, we're powered by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $150 in bonus bets today. Once again, this is the Windup jam-packed show today here on this Thursday, March 6th. We're breaking down everything that happened in the midweek and talking the final weekend of non-conference play as conference play quickly approaches next weekend. Final tune-up weekend for everybody out there. If you got to figure out your starting rotation, your bullpen woes, your lineup 1 through 9, maybe some injury issues, whatever it is, this is your last weekend to do so because starting next weekend, shit gets real. Shit gets real without saying the very least. Again, I am Chris Phillips. Joining me once again, as he always does, my good friend, Harrison Fant. Harrison, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. Excited to talk everything going down in the SEC on the diamond. Really, really pumped because what lies ahead after this weekend, especially as well.
Chris, always a pleasure to be here talking college baseball and doing so with you, talking the SEC, the best baseball conference across the country and 5 straight championships. I will continue to say it by different teams has proven that to be the case. So excited for that and excited for conference play to roll around next weekend. You know, like you said, the final tune-up weekend, I'm really excited to see from which teams who takes advantage of that the most. And this is the last weekend you get to do so. I know we're going to break it all down here, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, admittedly, for those tuned in again, you and I, Harrison, we find a way, no matter what the subject matter is, we'll find a way to go all day if you know these folks out here would allow us. And again, we appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you leave us your questions, your comments throughout the show if you're tuned in live. This is a great day to do so because on that note, a little bit of a lighter show today because again, the first few weeks, Harrison, obviously we've had tournaments on tournaments. On last weekend, we had rivalry series. A little bit different, as you would expect. Everybody this upcoming weekend, and of course, we're going to talk midweek first, but this upcoming weekend, it's as you would expect, Harrison, a little bit of a lighter schedule. You know, everybody's able to kind of catch their breath just a bit. Nobody's going to Arlington or Frisco or Las Vegas or wherever else it may be. You got a lot of your typical non-conference opponents because, again, like we mentioned, what lies ahead, and we'll get into that more later in the show. But that being said, Harrison, let's go ahead and dive into it again. The midweek slate delivered as it always does. Texas A&M, they go 1-1. Obviously on Sunday, a few days ago, they beat Rice. We're thinking to ourselves, we talked Monday, hey, maybe this is the turning point. They can find some momentum. It was not the case on Tuesday night, losing 7-4 to UTSA. They win 6-2, though, on Wednesday night over Texas Southern. And Harrison, at this point, every win feels like a big win for the Aggies this early in the season when you're sitting there with what their record is and the struggles they've had. As I predicted, Harrison, Florida, they suffered their first midweek loss of the season, losing to UCF Tuesday, but beat FAU Wednesday. Obviously, the game of the night we talked about on Tuesday night was Oklahoma-Dallas Baptist. Dallas Baptist run rules the Sooners, 11-0. Mississippi State, they beat up on Southern Miss, 18-3 the final in that one. On Wednesday night, Bama staying red hot. They get a top 25 win over Troy. Pitching was really good. Auburn gets upset by UAB. And then Georgia, who we made quite a stir with the Dog fans this week, calling them the most overrated team in college baseball. I don't think you or I, either of us, are willing to budge off that right now. But either way, we made a bit of a stir. They go 2-0. A lot of offense as we expected. So, Harrison, I just threw a lot at you, but when you look at the midweek, what stands out to you? We probably, on that note, should start in College Station because they're probably the most intriguing story in this conference to this point in the 2025 season. Going 1-1, so you've won your last game, but man, Tuesday night was just another frustrating night for them losing to UTSA. But again, good job bouncing back. 6-2 win over Texas Southern. But they're just a fascinating follow right now because it's kind of like a car crash. You can't look away. You got to tune in to see, is this going to get better or is this going to continue to get worse?
Yeah, Chris, that's definitely one of my two headlines from the midweek and going into the weekend as well. And we talked about it. I said maybe this is that win they needed on Sunday against Rice. Big win, offense gets going, and this is where they get momentum going and rolling. And a lot of confidence from players, a lot of energy boost because they're trying everything they can. They really are. They're super talented. I haven't lost all faith in them, Chris. I've just lost faith in them to win the SEC, obviously, and potentially go to Omaha, honestly, the way that they're playing. And it's obviously not the way that Mike Early wanted to start his head coaching career at A&M in the SEC, and not the way the players wanted to start the season, let alone respond to last year's season. And they're going through, I think, in a way, the most adversity of any team in the country. And I say that in a way of like finding out who they are after it feels like just losing themselves almost immediately. And they're going through a lot of that and battling that. And I think for a lot of these guys' careers, it's going to be a defining moment, a defining season, because they're going to learn a lot about themselves and just the adversity and things that they are going to go through and look back on and be able to reflect on. But I haven't lost all faith in them, Chris. I've just lost confidence going into a game, knowing that they are going to mash the ball, in confidence that, the bullpen's really going to hold up, because we've seen inconsistencies on both sides. Outside of the starting pitching, it's, just been stressful watching games, especially if you're an A&M fan and just not really sure exactly what you're going to get as we watch covering SEC as a whole.
Yeah, the only known, Harrison, right now, it feels like for A&M is that, and this is going to give them a chance in SEC play, obviously, a really good chance, but Prager, Lampkin, Patton are going to be really good. Outside of that, we just don't know. We don't know right now. And I think, to your point, the pressure obviously is more immense on them because of coming in with a target on their back, #1 ranking. Everybody was kind of labeling this as, and it still could be, by the way, like we could get to SEC play and they could, I don't know, they could flip a switch, cut it on, be the team we expected. Although it feels like unlikely because the SEC is far more unforgiving than what you're seeing in non-conference play and even some of these tournaments. Again, you feel, again, every win's a big win for them right now. Like when you're struggling and we know in baseball, when you're scuffling, hey, it's like we saw Jace Lavalette on Sunday night against Rice. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a swinging bunt single. If you go 2 for 4, you go 2 for 4. Like, you'll take that as a win when you're struggling. So this team, you're going to take it as a W. You're going to take it as a win no matter what. I don't care who you beat. We'll talk about what they've got upcoming, Harrison, in a bit in the weekend. But, man, you talk about teams and the importance of, this is going to be a weekend on the schedule, Harrison, where I think most kind of gloss over, like, whatever, like it's non-conference play. Who cares? Like, if you're an A&M, man, you really need to look good and you need to feel good coming out of it. Like, how you win's important, not just winning. So I don't know how much better.
I think at this point, winning's important.
Winning's very important. Yeah,
exactly,
I think.
wins, but you talk about Jace Lavalette, the struggles that he has, especially as talented of a player, if not the most talented player in the country. The preseason projected player of the year, preseason projected #1 collegiate prospect drafted in the upcoming draft this summer. I mean, it's just not struggles on the weekends too. I mean, UTSA this week, who's a really good ball club and on a heater, absolute heater. I don't think people know that in the SEC, let alone around the country. They're 12-3 on a double-digit win streak, and he goes 0 for 5 with a strikeout. I mean, competitive at bats, but identity kind of crisis as a team. But I know Jace is struggling with that and figuring it out. But Caden Kent had a good day, obviously 2 RBIs, but he's a lot of fun to watch. And I think one of those guys that's, can maybe be a spark plug for this offense, just the style of play he, has and the pedigree of player he is, because we saw him last year. He's kind of like just a scrappy guy willing to do whatever it takes to get on and, make the play for his team defensively, put his body on the line. And maybe, it's a different guy, like I'm not saying he's not a big name, but he's not, Jace Lavalette, Gavin Grahovac, who now they're missing for the entire season. But I don't know, maybe Caden Kent's that guy that kind of helps get things going, or kind of, I don't know. It's really tough situation. It's hard to explain and figure out because we don't really know exactly everything that's going on behind closed doors and the conversations they're having. We can only assume.
Yeah, it feels all mental, Harrison. It's not a talent issue, obviously. I mean, it's, and you look at Tuesday night, I think one of the concerning things as well 5 errors in that game. Like, it's just bad baseball all the way around, man. Bullpen is a mystery.
Yeah,
You got those
errors,
3.
It just can't happen, especially when your team's struggling like this.
No, they can't, because you start to compound mistakes on top of mistakes on top of mistakes, and it takes things from bad to worse. You can weather the storm in baseball, but you can't do a bunch of things wrong and weather that storm like they're trying to do. So they're going to be fascinating to follow continuing, Harrison. We'll get to their weekend series in a bit. I want to go to this super chat from our friend Tim Austin. Thank you, Tim, in the comments. Appreciate you. The super chat, showing love. He says, Tennessee coming for the Grand Slam record. Yeah, in case you guys missed it, Tennessee on Tuesday night, which it's so funny, Harrison, because this game starts and Radford's really hanging in there with the Vols, right? They're giving them all they want. I think at one point it's 9-9, right? And I'm still in my head. Yeah. I'm still in my head like Tennessee's going to end up winning this game.
They were down 9-4.
Yeah, they were down 9-4. I was like, they're still going to score 20 runs and win this game. Sure enough, they do exactly that. They win 22-9. The way they did it, though, Harrison, 3 grand slams in the game. Bad news for the rest of college baseball. Andrew Fisher starting to find his stroke. The Gavin Kylan kid is just on a different planet right now. Him and Q-Hio Aloy, I think, at Arkansas are probably the 2 hottest hitters.
Gavin Kylan's looking to be the best transfer prospect pickup in the country this season, the way he's playing right now. And, only adding to the depth of which Tennessee's offense is in the freshmen they have. And then once, like you said, Andrew Fisher gets going, it's like death by 1,000 punches, not cuts, because they're just throwing haymakers from the Tennessee offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's that Tennessee offense is scary. We don't even talk about, like, it just goes to show how good everybody else has been. Like, Hunter Inslee's not even like the headliner anymore in the offense. From the standpoint of those guys have been so good that it's like, oh yeah, by the way, all Hunter Inslee's doing is just running into walls and making great catches, and he did that yet again, of course. Levi Clark continues to tear the cover off the base right now. Harrison swinging the bats, and they're going to be as tough and out as ever, man. I mean,
I'm surprised. I mean, we know Hunter Inslee and just the player and the makeup of character he is, and we know he's going to give it his all for Tennessee today. He did in Omaha. He's not going to stop now, and I'm surprised they don't, put warning signs on walls for the walls about their own safety, because Hunter Inslee has no problem running into the wall, sacrificing his body.
No, I think he enjoys it. And Tony Vitello coming out Tuesday night after the game and imploring the Vol fans, hey, give the guy a standing ovation. And then I don't know if you saw this, Harrison. He comes out Wednesday night. He follows up on that. It's like, hey, why were you so fired up? He's still pissed off about the Albert Ozuna thing, which, I get it. I mean, I get it. None of it really
based on the precedent that the NCAA set, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
They're trying to put Pandora's box back together and close the top, and it's just not working. No, in football, football, as much as we talk football and SEC Unfiltered, it's only going to just be larger news for football and a more confusing, frustrating, forceful conversation with a lot of pressure and a lot of, the money invested in football. It's only going to make things worse.
Yeah, especially when one of the guys that headlined this, this conversation, if you will, football side, his name is Diego Pavia. He plays at that other school in Tennessee, Vanderbilt. So, Tony Vitello and company cannot be too happy. Either way, though, the offense isn't missing a beat. They are crushing again. They go 2-0. Did they play last night in the midweek? I'm trying to think.
No, they're pushing.
Okay, they went 1-0.
They're pushing up because of weather late night. But to talk about that record he's talking about, Tennessee tied the NCAA record with 3 grand slams in the same game this week against Radford. They are also now at 7 grand slams in the season, Chris, in only 12 games. 12 games.
That's insane. That's really genuinely insane. Yeah.
And the NCAA record is 14 grand slams in a season by one team. And it was done by Arizona State back in 2003. And they did that in 68 games. Tennessee has 7 grand slams in 12 games. I think they shatter that record.
Yeah, I tell you this too, that if they shatter that record, we're going to see Tennessee back in Omaha, because I will say, if you're able to hit 7 more, they got a bunch of midweek still left, but if you're able to stack those up going through SEC play, it's going to be a pretty good sign. Balls are going to be right, and I think we expect they're going to be right there.
Most of them during non-conference, that's like, I don't want to say it's a stat padding, but that's when kind of the SEC, you build up your high floor and baseline of stats, but you're getting as many of them as you can out of the way at this point.
Yeah, it really just echoes, I think, Harrison, what we've been talking about, is that I mean, the Tennessee lineup. Let's get into SEC play first, but it has this feeling of like, man, they could be better than last year, and that's
the cherry on top. I mean, Blake Grimmer hit a walk-off grand slam to end the game. He said, "Good night." He said, let's get back in the locker room. It's cold. We got an early weekend, series. I call it game. Let's say the bullpen.
Yeah, it's terrifying what they're doing offensively. For the rest of the SEC, it's highly entertaining for us. Harrison, I want to jump to the Florida Gators, again, a team that I just saw over the past weekend. Like I said, I felt like this was the week they were probably going to drop a midweek game. Yeah. They do so. UCF, you could argue, took them to the woodshed on beat them by 10 runs on Tuesday night. They bounced back, beat FAU on Wednesday night. I will give Florida this credit for this. Like, their midweek slate is not like everybody else's. Like, these teams they play in the state of Florida, it is really good baseball. So I know I'm going to sound like, oh, you just left Gainesville, you're kind of being a homer towards. They just really do play good teams in the midweek. I mean, next week, looking too far ahead, they got Florida State. Like, it's not like they're playing nobodies. So that's why I kind of felt like you're going to rack up some midweek losses. The midweek games are going to be close. So it's nothing for me that I really worry about, Harrison, when it comes to the Gators. I just think for them and for Kevin O'Sullivan, they're just looking for pitching depth. I mean, I think that's obviously the thing you look at with them and say, okay, like, we know about the McNeelys, we know about the Philpotts, we know about the Menendezes. Who's after them? Like, who are going to be those youngsters that step up? They threw a true freshman on Tuesday night. We saw how things went for the pitching staff on Tuesday night. Wednesday, they bounced back, but that was Billy Barlow on the mound, the Clemson transfer, who I think is a guy that, depending on what happens with Pierce Capala, how Aiden King throws in the weekend, we'll talk about that more a little bit later. He could be a guy that factors in, but still like this Gators team, but the pitching depth for sure is something I think they're going to have to continue to figure out,
Chris,
especially as SEC play comes up.
I think something else we need to mention too is they lose Kyle Jones, Stetson transfer.
Out for the year. That hurts.
They lose him for the season. Tough loss and to do so. I mean, he was playing really great to start the season. So I think that's something to keep note of is how and who replaces them. Yeah.
And they love his game. They love his game.
I was big on him coming into the season.
Significant loss. Yeah, it's a significant loss.
Yeah, but I mean, Chris, another thing, like UCF, like you said, is no slouch. Like, the state of Florida produces elite baseball players that either stay in the state of Florida or go elsewhere. UCF is a good program. Talk about Jacksonville's a good program. South Florida is a solid program, usually better from time to time. Stetson's a really good program. They host the regional in 2016. Florida Atlantic's one of the best mid-majors in the country right now. UCF is undefeated against the SEC. Just saying, they 2-0. Missouri, take it for what you will. In Florida.
We'll give, we got to give them that. Yeah, you're right.
Just saying. I mean, they weirdly enough lost 13-3 to South Florida on Friday last weekend. And then beat him 12-1 and 12-2 and 7.
And UCF has owned Florida a bit too.
I was
Harrison. The Gators haven't beaten them since 2017.
Yeah, Florida Gators have lost to UCF every time they play. And the last time they beat him was February 28th, 2017.
Yeah, and
they just got a run roll by them. I mean, it's midweek. Take it for what you will, but midweeks matter.
Yeah, midweeks matter indeed. We got another super chat. Let's jump into this one again. Appreciate y'all. This comes from Brant Robin. Brant, thank you. Thank you, Brant.
Thank you.
Brant says LSU's the standard and blue blood of college baseball. Agree or disagree? Harrison, I'll let you start.
Were you saying like right now or like?
I think right now. I think right now, would you consider them the standard in college baseball?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say blue blood. Yes, absolutely. I think the standard, if they would want one more national championship, 2 in 5 years, I'd say standard. I mean, you could have said Vanderbilt was a standard 3 years ago. I mean, they had won 2, they had lost 2 in Omaha in the championship. You could say that, but I'm going to say absolutely no doubt blue blood. And I'll go and post this on X Twitter later today about just, the blue bloods of college baseball right now, but also, have kind of a little bit of recency in it, more so just like past 10, 15 years. But like I said, I think LSU is a blue blood of college baseball, the pedigree that the program of which they are year in and year out, and expectations and the fans, the culture, tradition, the history, all of it, absolutely blue blood right now. But the standard, I think college baseball is too hard to say that a team is this standard with just how the game of college baseball works and the turnover of roster, especially nowadays with the portal, JUCO, everything. That's a really good, interesting question, though. I appreciate that one, Brant.
Yeah, Brant, that's a good one. I will give you both. I think they are a blue blood. There's no question. I think it's when you talk about blue bloods, I mean, it's them, it's Texas. You probably have to throw USC in there, Southern Cal, because of the history. Now,
Well, that's the
granted,
thing. That's why I said, do you
right,
think recency
but
or historically? Then
yeah,
you throw in Arizona State
because
if you're going to do that.
because like a Tennessee is, I'd more so consider a new blood, not a blue blood. I don't, they've had a good history, but like what they're doing, it's more recent. It's more
It
Tony
depends on when
Vitello.
you want to go from like, past 10 years, all time, because then you throw in Miami as well if you're going to do all time, Arizona State, UCLA.
Yeah, I will give you this, Brand. I do think LSU is like the standard in regards to, because nobody's spending an NIL the way they are. Like nobody's attacking the new era of college
Well, we
baseball
talked
the way
about
they
it. We
are.
think baseball's number 2 at LSU.
Yeah,
I love
for sure.
basketball.
No,
Even
it
at women's
100,
basketball, how
it
successful they are.
110% is 110. It's not even. I don't think it's even debatable. Yeah, baseball is absolutely like the crown. Football is always going to be king. Baseball is the crown jewel at LSU, really, truly. So, yeah, good question, Brant. We might need to have
Really
like a full end, maybe another like segment on just specifically that. But LSU certainly, we both agree, one of the best programs in the sport. There's no denying that. Harrison, I want to ask you this as we continue with the midweek slate. What was more surprising to you? Oklahoma getting run ruled by Dallas Baptist 11-0, or Mississippi State beating Southern Miss 18-3 at the Dude? Which of those two results was more surprising?
That's another really good question. I'm going to go Oklahoma. Just because we know how good Southern Miss is and how competitive that in-state rivalry between, like I talk about Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Southern Miss, same like Florida, Florida State, Miami. We know Dallas Baptist is good and Oklahoma is good. We didn't think that, they'd get blown out like they did.
Dude, they were undefeated.
They were undefeated too, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you talk about non-conference competition, but like that was crazy. That was a season high runs for Dallas Baptist too. I mean, entering this game, they have not allowed more than 5 runs of Sooners in a game. I mean, obviously, you're talking about more weekend slate when you're seeing the Witherspoon twins and whatnot, but to go and do that to Oklahoma and a good bullpen they have, I know, like I said, I know it's different in midweeks. They don't have a huge weekend slate coming up. It's Sam Houston, no disrespect to them, but it's not like you're starting SEC play. You're still going to get your guys innings and, outings and whatnot, get some opportunities for certain other guys. But I mean, 4 home runs. I mean, it was really weird, Chris. I don't know if you saw or were able to tell. It was a windy night, wind up to 50-mile-an-hour gust. That's not easy to play in either.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, DB starter Ryan Borgen retired 13 straight into the 6th inning. It was from the jump. Like DB just dominated that game. So that was the most interesting thing for me. I was waiting to see, because I know we started with A&M and just I think most important topic, trending story of college baseball right now is that, but that was my biggest thing, of the midweek slate was Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was more surprised by that result too. I thought Mississippi State was kind of due, obviously, in the midweek. By the way, great to see Hunter Hines get back on it. He had a pretty good night, got a couple knocks. Again, Mississippi State, after taking their lumps in the midweek, Harrison, they were due to break out. You go to Southern Miss, you lose a few weeks ago. What was it last week? They lost to Troy, obviously, on the home. So I was like, okay, at some point this team is going to break through. They desperately needed a win, obviously, because of what happened over the weekend in Houston. Went 1-2. They didn't feel great coming out of it. That was a big one for them. And once they started to pour it on, I didn't think they were going to let the foot up off the gas. I had Mississippi State fans hit me up saying, I'm just mad we didn't score 20. So they wanted more. They wanted blood.
Yeah.
Because
I was at church and I came back from church last night. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, but the Oklahoma game, to your point, you were undefeated going in, and your first loss comes in style. So you're not going to overreact to a midweek loss, but man.
What was your, I guess, bigger takeaway I want to talk about both real quick. I know we're a lot in the midweek slate, but bigger takeaway was Oklahoma's lack of offense or the pitching staff? And then I have another question as well.
The bigger takeaway, I think probably the pitching staff and the pitching depth. I mean, great pitching is going to be great. And you mentioned the kid for DBU. I saw some highlights, was really, really good. So Oklahoma's lineup, listen, I love Easton Carmichael. He's got maybe the best name in college baseball. Jackson Willits is really good, but I don't think they've got the best lineup in the conference. So if you're telling me they're going to have some nights where they struggle, sure. But for a Skip Johnson pitching staff to get touched up like that, again, it's midweek guys, but I mean, I thought Dallas like, I'm not worried about Oklahoma, really, honestly. I think Dallas Baptist made more so of a statement that, they're
I would agree with that. And Dallas Baptist was my dark horse last year for the College World Series.
And some people have had them as a dark horse this year. I mean, they certainly could be. I mean, they got some dudes for sure.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they pitch guys that have thrown innings. Like, I mean, Gavin Jones has thrown. He's been in four games he's appeared in. You got Jason Bowden, who's been in 6 games. Just over 7 innings, and you got Cade Crossland, who started for Oklahoma. JUCO transfer from, I think, Witherspoon, Texas, I believe it is, or Weatherfield JUCO in Texas, big JUCO there, and he's got almost 10 innings. 3 games he's pitched in 1 start. So it wasn't like they were pitching guys who haven't pitched before. But I think the bats for DBU made the biggest statement, obviously, as I think, honest, more so than the pitching for DBU, because they used a good starter that they had available. But my second question, Chris, is what was more impressive for you? Was it Mississippi State's offense or something else?
I think it was the offense. Yeah, you put a.
Was it like a coming out party for them, or just what? Like,
well, again, you don't want to overreact to a midweek positive or negative, right? So we'll see.
I think this is treated like a weekend though for both teams.
State. I mean, and I will say this: I think State's got offensive depth. Like, I think they've got. I mean, the fact they're able to bench a Hunter Hines and still feel confident they can go win ball games. Like, they've got other dudes that are stepping up if they can get him going. I mean, that so coming out party, I don't know, but if you've been paying attention, like, their offensive depth has been impressive early. So, I mean, but dude, anytime you score 18 runs in a game, I walk away pretty impressed with the bats. So
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's just, what do you take that into the weekend? What do you do with it?
Yeah, continue to
how do you kind of capitalize on that? And because that, I think it's treated like a midweek, like that midweek's treated like a weekend just because of the rivalry and how good Southern Miss is. You're not like, we're playing I'm trying to think of like a okay midweek. We're not playing like a mid-major team that's, bottom of the barrel or bottom of a low G4 conference. You're playing a team that's hosted regionals, hosted super regionals, and been to Omaha before.
Yeah. Harrison, let's jump to another super chat. Appreciate you guys. Caden with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Caden. Do y'all now understand the Georgia starting situation? Harrison, I'm first going to ask you, what's your life been like over the last 48, 72 hours from the dog fans and the mentions? I tell you, what I've been happy about, because we posted the clip, obviously, of Harrison, which, both of us had the opinion, Harrison. I just wanted to give you the spotlight. And I'm just happy to see dog fans really fired up for baseball because, buddy, they were not happy with my friend Harrison Fant's take that they are overrated. Updated thoughts, Harrison, on Georgia and how life has been dealing with the dogs in your mentions.
Honestly, they haven't been too bad. I mean, I say this from a fact that they're not an elite SEC baseball fan base. I mean, no disrespect to them. It's football seems first, obviously, and it will always be. It seems some of them care about basketball more. I think it's just because it's the peak of, March Madness, everything. And then Georgia fans are really getting into baseball now, starting to, especially – Chris, where were Georgia fans 2 years ago?
It's a good question.
Baseball. And then, I think the biggest thing, and I expected it was, he calls Georgia Tech baseball games. He's a Georgia Tech baseball analyst. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's a job opportunity for me, but I see the game from a perspective of an analyst, not a fan.
You're very unbiased. I don't think there's any, I will say this to everybody out there listening, all the Georgia fans that are inevitably going to flood the comments, which we welcome it. Because we got nothing but love for Georgia, but you call it how you see it. I think you do a good job. I don't ever sense there's a Georgia Tech. I give you some crap every now and then. I don't ever sense a Georgia Tech baseball bias coming in when it comes to talking about the dogs. Because, I mean, you and I we weren't low on the dogs coming in. But, I mean, dude, I even talked to a Georgia guy who's pretty prominent on social media off the record who gave us crap in the mentions, who straight up told me, I mean, yeah, Chris, he's not wrong. We're all actually in our group chats worried about the pitching.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a hot take to say that.
Yeah, and I never said the offense wasn't good. I just said that the
offense is really good. The offense is really good.
They're just doing this to mid-major teams and digging their pitching staff out of a hole. And then the bullpen's just absolutely holding the wall. Which, I said, Chris, when they're throwing 60-something innings already before conference play and the starting pitching staff's throwing 25, under 30, the bullpen's going to get absolutely worked.
Apparently, they're doing the whole.
Chris, hear me out. I say worked in a they're going to get so fatigued and tired come April, May, late conference, that because they've had so many non-conference innings of high leverage pitching.
Apparently, Harrison, they're doing the whole like opener thing.
They're
That's
getting
what
guys
West.
a lot of opportunities and stuff because they don't know who can really start, it seems like, other than Leighton Finley, who's had struggles himself. And Georgia fans, I think, coming this season would say Leighton Finley's our guy. He is a legit Friday, Saturday starter in the SEC, and he's had struggles of his own. So I don't think you can use, like we've had all of our starters are injured. Like, I get you have injuries. I get it. Every team has injuries, I mean, Gavin Grohovac, SEC freshman of the year, he's out for the season now. Kyle Jones, Florida, he's out for the season now. I mean, plenty of teams have injuries and it sucks, but like fans that are just fans don't understand that. They just kind of cling to that part. Like, yes, it's a huge thing and you deal with it, but like Jake said it too. Our friend Jake McKeever, he said, I feel like coming to the season, Georgia had 2 Saturday guys and, maybe a Sunday guy.
Yeah. I mean, that was their pitching coming in. That's going to be their big question, or that was their pitching. That was their question coming in, was the pitching. That's going to be their question moving forward. We'll talk about their weekend series in a bit, Harrison. But
Chris, it's not I'm down on them all year. It's what they've proven to me so far this season.
Yeah.
When they
comes around, you can't say like, okay, you're playing with the opener thing, but like the ERA is what it is. Man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, whoever you're trotting out there is not throwing well. Like,
and guys that have gone from, like Alton Davis, bullpen guy going to starting position, everyone that's gone to the starting position has struggled, it seems like.
Yeah. And Georgia, by the way,
talented guy.
And Georgia, by the way, they go 2-0 against High Point and Georgia State this week, which High Point we talked about. Hey, pretty solid program. That was a good win. I think they won
Georgia
that game.
State, not bad at all either.
Yeah, 8-4. Hey, what was the score in the Georgia State game? Was it like 16-10? I mean, I believe it was. They're going to probably have to win a lot of games, higher scoring games.
16-10, yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's the thing. Like, they're going to have to just play in shootouts.
They're going to have to outslug people, probably more often than not. So we'll see if they can continue to do it. Harrison, another team that made a big, I say big statement. They just stay red hot. How about the Alabama Crimson Tide, man? Still undefeated. And they beat a top 25 Troy team by a final score of 3-1. The pitching was fantastic. We know against Skylar Meade, a really, really good young coach. By the way, also on Tuesday, we talked about, hey, Jacksonville State, and they got a solid program. They beat them 11-1 in that game.
They beat them 20-11 earlier in the season.
Yeah,
sorry, 11-1 and 20-11 earlier in the season.
Yeah, dude, Alabama, man, they continue, Harrison, to be one of the best stories, I think, in the SEC early. And, again, looking ahead to next weekend, we'll talk about this next week, of course. But
Chris, I mean, what happened against Troy for Alabama? Yet again, Justin LeBron goes, yeah. I mean,
dude, he is insane.
Chris,
Justin LeBron.
You talk about what's his name from Florida? Bowers, Brody Bowers. What's his name?
Bozer, Bobby Bozer.
Bobby Bozer, yeah, always being on your timeline hitting a home run. For me, it's Justin LeBron. And Justin LeBron edits.
Yeah.
And I don't even follow that many Alabama accounts.
Dude, Justin LeBron is taking over the algorithm, man. Justin LeBron is taking over.
He is welcome to come on my show whenever he wants.
Hey, by the way, speaking of Alabama, our guy Dave Shoemate is up here in the comments. Not everyone can be the Bama baseball fan base. All right, Dave, relax.
Isn't he half of the fan base?
That's something like that. I don't know. No, listen, the Bama folks you've interacted with, by the way, they're awesome. They're great. I'm glad to see them getting behind the Crimson Tide. Dave also mentions Justin LeBron, the best athlete in Tuscaloosa. Okay. I might have to screenshot that from Dave because he needs to stand on that opinion. So
yeah, we got to hear a video from that one. But I mean, Chris, I think my favorite thing about, I don't want to say all college baseball fans, but it's the college baseball fans that are honest about, they know ball. Like, they understand the game of baseball to an exceptional point, to a solid high floor. They know their baseball team, they watch it, but are able to be honest with themselves and, keep up with around the league. And not everyone does that. There's a lot of fandom, but I really do appreciate the fans that, like I said, with Georgia struggles, like, I think, your take's wrong that we're a overrated team, but you make a lot of good points. Like the team, the fans and people that are honest with themselves about their team and keep up with other teams in the league, those are my favorite ones for sure in college baseball.
Harrison, Alabama's a team that, I mean, again, next week we'll talk about it. There's going to be so many awesome storylines, and we're going to be making picks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Bama's one of those teams I'm certainly most excited to just kind of see, like, okay, like what – I think I know what they are from the standpoint. Like, this is a really solid club, but, like, it's like we talked about, the middle of the pack, like kind of what tier are you? You know what I mean? We're
And
going to
Chris,
find that out.
this Bama team feels different than last year's.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it. I brought
They're
it back up
healthy too.
because
They're healthy. That's a big
healthy
thing.
too. But the interesting fact of last year's team was just so good out the gates and so red hot, but they didn't play anyone as good as they have this year and have, handled games as well and as dominantly as they have this year. Because last year I was like, wait till SEC plays, given their flowers, but like, not pump the brakes, but like wait till SEC play. And then they had their struggles in conference, except for beating Tennessee somehow for some reason. But I don't have that concern really with Alabama right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Alabama team. Their first series in SEC play, Harrison, next weekend at Texas A&M. So
good time to get them. Good time to play them.
Yeah. You talk about a big opportunity at the gate. Hey, the next weekend, looking too far ahead, Tennessee goes to Tuscaloosa. I know we all talk third Saturday in October, but buddy, I don't know, what is it? Third weekend in March is what we should be talking about.
Add it to the slate.
Add it to the slate. All right. Harrison, Auburn gets upset by UAB on Wednesday. UAB got a pretty solid program. That was one of the other notable results, if you will. Ole Miss continues to roll. How about they win an extra inning thriller on Wednesday, 8-7 against Murray State.
And they were playing one of the few undefeateds left, Murray State.
Yeah.
Shout out the Racers at Murray State. Shout out the coaches there. Know them, good friends with them. Definitely a climbing mid-major program. So not a bad ball club. I know Murray State hasn't played a ton of great competition or, high-level mid-majors yet. But, I mean, they gave the Swayze Crazies and Ole Miss all they could.
Yeah, shout out to Judd Udemark, by the way, who's been red hot for them. I think it was – I don't know if he extended his streak to 5 games or if it's still – he was at one point, he was at 4 straight games with a home run. So he's been red hot for them. We mentioned LSU earlier, by the way, Harrison. They played North Dakota State. They had a pretty interesting game on Tuesday night. They were trailing in that game for a while. I know they were a little irritated with the bullpen, what have you, which is to be expected. I think LSU obviously going to be fine. They come back and they win that game. Final score of 11-9 on Tuesday night. Just kind of going through all the scores here. South Carolina goes 2-0 in the midweek. They beat Davidson and the Citadel. Fun fact, by the way, for those that care, my college coach at Newberry is the head coach of the Citadel now, Russell Triplett. So best of luck.
Did you see the student section at the Citadel for the game?
I think I saw it. I do think I saw a shot of it. Yeah, they look pretty
rowdy. Go look it up.
Yeah, they look pretty rowdy, right?
They were showing out, but
yeah,
that was cool to see, especially for the Citadel.
Yeah, they're getting after it. Yeah, Kentucky beats Eastern Kentucky 16-0 on Tuesday. Let's see. Arkansas, they go 2-0 in the midweek, beating up on ULM. The scores are 14-1 and 15-3. So they had a lot of fun. Dude, again, QEO Alloy, my God. This dude's hitting like 600, right? He's putting up video game numbers are almost insulting to what the numbers he's putting up. I don't know if I could go hit 600 in MLB The Show. I don't think I could, to be honest with you.
What's crazy is he's not in the top 20 even of batting averages in the SEC.
Is he not?
Not that I see.
There's got to be like a minimum at bat requirement or something. What do we have? Guys hitting 800?
4-86, Cole Haig from Kentucky.
Is he really not in the top 20?
Let me double check.
I thought he was hitting like 570. I saw the Arkansas main team account say something like maybe it was in his last like 20 at bats or something. I could be wrong there, but all I know is he's red hot of late. Either way, he is.
Yeah, no, it feels like he's one of the core pieces of this Arkansas.
Yeah, him, Brent Iredale, another one who's a major core piece for them.
He's got a power bat. I think he's going to have have a good season. I think he'll ramp things up here as SEC play gets going as well.
Yeah. By the way, LSU on Wednesday night, they I say get a little revenge. They didn't have nearly as dramatic a game, beating North Dakota State 13-3 and 7. Kentucky's game on Wednesday night got canceled against Eastern Kentucky. In case you guys are wondering, by the way, why we're spending so much time going so in depth the midweek again, it's a lighter weekend slate. We want to give you
midweeks matter.
And midweeks matter. That's the bigger takeaway. Vandy beats St. Bonaventure 14-1 in 7 innings on Wednesday. Let's see, did the Doors play Tuesday? I'm assuming they did. Oh, they got canceled against Evansville. So they did not play Tuesday, won 14-1 on Wednesday. They were coming off a kind of rough weekend out west. So
yeah, and Chris, not to mention another one of the hottest bats in the SEC too, Cooper McMurray, Auburn. He had a game-tying home run against UAB, I believe. He's third highest batting average in the SEC right now, 444 with a 1,400 OPS. Unreal. I mean, so that's another name to keep an eye on and a core piece of Auburn's offense as well.
And I believe, Harrison, UAB, I'm going to double check here. UAB walked that game off against Auburn. And that game was at UAB.
Yeah, which is weird. They played at UAB.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Yeah, UAB walked it off 6-5, upsetting number 22 Auburn. So how about that? The boys down in Birmingham scoring a top 25 win. Harrison, before we get off the midweek, anything else that maybe I skipped over, did not spend enough time on, just anything in general that jumped out to you from the – we didn't have a viral crazy picture this week, unfortunate, but
the streak's dead.
Yeah, the streak is dead. We got to 2. We got to about 7 million total views over those 2 posts. So
it sounds like no midweek pitcher watched your clip.
I know nobody, or every coach watched the clips and said, if anybody, I swear to God, if anybody's on this guy's timeline, I'm going to chew your ass and you're going to run till I get tired.
You're going to do polls till I get tired. Yeah,
something like that happened. So, anything else? So, any major takeaways from the? Hey, by the way, the final midweek slate without an SEC weekend awaiting. So that kind of throws an interesting dynamic in the midweeks because obviously saving pitching. Yeah. Anything else jump out to you?
I think not saving pitching, but just not extending guys over, an inning really.
Being smart with your pitching.
And not using your, I don't want to say B closer, but your guy who would be your second closer, unless it's a very tight ball game and you're going to get a short outing from your go-to closer.
Yeah. Speaking of midweeks matter, Harrison, we just spent about 40 minutes talking about the midweek. So hashtag
never say we don't say they matter.
Hashtag midweeks matter here at SEC Unfiltered. You know what else matters? Our friends over at FanDuel, because we're brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Caperson, let's continue and talk the weekend. Weekend number 4 is upon us. And again, most notably, the final non-conference weekend.
And Chris, getting into that, I do want to correct myself because I am an analytical guy and numbers guy. Kuyo Aloy is leading the SEC in batting average at 556 with a 1.822 OPS.
Okay, that makes
behind him 2 Tennessee guys, Levi Clark, the freshman, who I was been so high on to start the season, batting 545, with just under an 1,800 OPS, and then Gavin Keelan, with a 511 average and a 1823 OPS. So just want to clarify those things.
Yeah, to be hitting over 500 after like opening weekend is one thing. To be hitting over 500 and we're 15 games in?
That's in 36 at bats.
That's insane.
And Gavin's got 45.
That's truly insane. That said, Harrison, again, these guys will have one more weekend, you feel like, to really pad their stats because this is the final non-conference weekend of the 2025 SEC baseball season. And then we get into conference play every single weekend starting next weekend. But again, some notable series here, so we're going to run through these really quickly. Again, we won't overdo it here. I more so want to talk about Harrison because, again, the theme of this is the final tune-up weekend. Which teams need to tune up what? What are the things that stand out most? I'm going to run through these really quickly, what the 3-game series are, and then we'll discuss that. Georgia hosts Columbia. Arkansas hosts Portland. Kentucky hosts Wofford, the Terriers. Vanderbilt hosts Xavier, who's had one of the most ridiculous non-conference schedules in the country.
And they played Tennessee, I think, in a midweek, or they were supposed to.
Yeah, they were supposed to, yeah. Mizzou hosts Binghamton. Auburn hosts Old Dominion. Tennessee hosts St. Bonaventure. Florida hosts Harvard. Alabama hosts Presbyterian College. Texas A&M hosts New Mexico State. South Carolina hosts Morehead State. LSU hosts North Alabama. Oklahoma hosts Sam Houston State. Texas hosts Santa Clara. Ole Miss hosts Jacksonville State. And Mississippi State hosts Queens. Harrison, again, I go through those. I don't think there should be like any crazy dramatics. I'm not saying everybody's going to go 3-0 because this is college baseball. I will actually point out too, Harrison, by the way, Georgia hosts Columbia. If my memory serves me correctly, I'm pretty sure, did Columbia not take 2 of 3 from Duke? Or did they not beat Duke?
What?
Either way,
yes,
this season. Or maybe it was
no,
somebody.
That was Cincinnati.
That was Cincy. Okay, Columbia beat somebody then. I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. They're a pretty solid Ivy League program. That's the only point I was making. But again, we're not going to fluff this up or anything. Again, these are all non-conference series. Everybody in the SEC should go 2-1 at minimum. You agree with that? I mean, I don't think anybody we're looking at is like, man, I'm really concerned about X team or Y team or what have you. Everyone should be able to go in, have a good weekend, work on things they need to work on. Harrison, for you, what are some of the top things you look at? Again, we mentioned final tune-up weekend. What are some of the things you think are going to be the greatest points of emphasis? Or maybe you're looking at trying to read between the lines. Let's see how this looks. Let's see how that looks. You know, I don't know if it's going to make you feel better necessarily, but like for Georgia, for example, hey, it's a good weekend for your starting pitching to pitch worth a damn. That'd be a good start for you. You know what I mean? Like anything that jumps out to you that like you think are going to be top points of emphasis across the league this weekend.
I think it's not a tune-up weekend for Kentucky. Honestly, Chris, I think, Wofford's a very good ball club. They're 11-2. They're 2024 SoCon champs. They went deep in the postseason. They've done it before, and they've got some dudes that can mash on their team. Guy, the great name, Harrison Campy, batting .405, almost a 1,200 OPS. I mean, they got their whole lineup, I think, is batting over 330, over 320. And you got Tyler back with over 1,100 OPS. You got Tyler Hare with a 1,400 OPS. They got some dudes that can mash the ball, and they steal a lot of bases, and they hit doubles and steal a lot of bases. That's what Wofford has been recently. And I mean, Champ Davis is their closer, and he is absolutely shoved. I mean, 2 saves. He has a .6 ERA, sub-1 whip. I mean, he's elite on the mound to slam the door for them, for the Wofford Terriers. And Branson Little is, I think, their ace. He's got a 3.18 ERA, 1.2 whip. I think he's going to give Kentucky a really, really tough start. And, I think Wofford might be able to come away with a win in this series, Chris.
Wofford, a very good program, to your point. I've actually got a high school teammate of mine that played at Wofford. They've been good for a while. And the Terriers will not be intimidated. They will go into Kentucky expecting to win 2 or 3. So to your point, very good.
I think that's the biggest series this weekend.
Yeah, probably most competitive you look at on paper. I'll tell you this, Harrison, some things that jump out to me that, again, and just when I think about a tune-up weekend, what I think needs to be tuned up across the league, Georgia and your pitching staff as a whole, primarily your starting pitching. I think for Arkansas, let's see Gabe Gackle have a good start, right? He got touched up last Friday. I mean, we talked about Charlotte, and we talked about it on Friday Night Spikes. Very uncharacteristic for him. It's not something I worry about long-term, but you'd like to see Gabe Gackle obviously go out against Portland and, get back to being Gabe Gackle. Florida, I'm intrigued by. Again, I just saw them, but Pierce Capalla obviously is sidelined with an injury. I don't think they think it's going to be long-term, Harrison, but you never know with soreness, especially when it gets up in the shoulder. We get to see Aiden King on Saturday, starting on the weekend. First time ever. He started in a midweek. This stuff is elite. It's electric. I talked about him. I love the heartbeat. It doesn't ever, he stays even keel. You don't know if he's up 10-0, down 10-0. He gets the Saturday start against Harvard, which, listen, Harvard, Ivy League, there's some good players in the Ivy League. Don't mess around. Florida should win, take care of business, but getting to see Aiden King, and you and I know as well as anybody, Harrison, at like this level of college baseball, I don't know that Pierce Capalla is going to lose his job due to injury, don't get me wrong, but if Aiden King goes out there and throws 6 or 7 strong and pitches really well, pitches to what do you think he's capable, like in this level of college baseball, like you got to go with the hot hand, and sometimes that is just how you lose your job. So I know Sully knows what he's doing with the pitching staff. Fascinating to see how Aiden King throws and what that means for the staff moving forward. Obviously their bullpen depth, I think, is something they'd like to see some guys come out of the pen, throw well against Harvard, have them feeling confident going into, because, again, they go to Lindsey Nelson to open SEC play. Against Tennessee, obviously Harrison, Texas A&M, I think everything. It's just a tune-up weekend across the board, right? Like, I think you feel confident your starters are going to throw well. Let's see them play well defensively. Let's see them continue to build some confidence swinging the stick. I don't know if anybody needs a 3-0 weekend more than them. New Mexico State comes to town. You should be able to handle business there at Bluebell. Outside of that, I mean, anything I missed, Harrison? I mean, again, there's a lot of other teams I did not mention, but, it's a tune-up weekend across the board. That's really what this is about. Again, if you got some loose ends, this is your last weekend, Harrison, to really establish roles, because once you get in SEC play, man, if you're still trying to establish roles in the conference, you're going to take some licks. Like, there's no question.
It's not the time to do so. And that's what non-conference is for. I mean, the pitching coaches and, Coach Ron Lee that I've talked to is, you want to win as many games as possible. You win all your non-conference especially, but it really doesn't matter, win or loss necessarily. Some of them don't seem to really care at all, because they want to focus on their conference schedule, because that's the games that matter, and have guys identified in roles and situations in the reps and be able to call on them when they need to, when conference play comes, because those are the most important games of your season, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the midweeks matter, but they matter from the standpoint of building depth, identifying who are going to be your dudes as you get into SEC play, go throughout your season, obviously chase down Omaha. So
the biggest thing for Chris, you talk about Georgia's pitching staff and what you want to see out of them. Obviously, I mean, you had Leighton Finley, who's supposed to bolster down this lineup or this rotation for Georgia coming in. Yes, you deal with injuries and whatnot. You bring in, a number 3 newcomer class, I believe, this season, with a lot of talented guys. I think mostly on the bat side, but you bring in, guys like Alton Davis. You have other guys that have come back on the mound that have been, really key players for you, like Zach Harris and Charlie Goldson. Yes, returning from an arm injury. Ohio State transfer Zach Brown, Brian Zeldin also returns, guys like that. But I mean, Wes Johnson talks, I think it was right before the season, or I think the beginning of the season, about how, like, this year, that was a big focus with them, was depth on the mound. And he said, like, this year we just have a lot of depth and a lot of arm talent. It's been proven in the bullpen, not so much on the mound so far. And I mean, we know the resume that Wes Johnson has and the success he's had wherever he's been. He's been in the big leagues coaching, pitchers for quite a long time, successful doing that. He was LSU's pitching coach when they won the national championship with Paul Skeens, and Paul Skeens, is still close with him in the offseason. And he talks about just like Georgia's pitching lab. I mean, Johnson said 15 MLB clubs were in town last week or beginning of the season to look at their new pitching technology in the lab, and saying on the pitching side that they have stuff that no one else in the country has. So it's interesting to see how that kind of develops and shapes this season and the next couple of seasons in Athens, Chris.
No doubt. I want to touch on, too, Harrison, a team we haven't talked about really the entire show somehow. The Texas Longhorns, they've got Santa Clara. Probably most notable for them, Harrison, it's going to be a beautiful weekend at the ballpark, which they haven't had many of.
Not many people have, really.
No, there haven't been many beautiful days at the Yard. It should be a good weekend for their hitters. Again, last weekend in Vegas, they scored 10-plus runs in every game. I know the last midweek they scored, I think, 15 runs. So the offense is heating up at the right time. You want to see that continue. Obviously, Jared Spencer, he's a ton of fun to watch. I will be tuning in, watching him before Friday Night Spikes.
And Chris, another player I want to watch, I'll go back to Georgia real quick, is Rylan Zambrowski. He started GCU, went to Miami, Ohio, and grad senior here, I believe, in Athens, batting .430 with a 1550 OPS almost. I mean, 35 at-bats, like not as many as a lot of other guys in the team, but I think he's a really interesting and a huge piece in addition for Georgia's offense that I'm interested to watch more of and see how he shapes a role fully into the offense. And I don't know, just something I want to note on, because I think he's a really interesting under-the-radar transfer that they picked up.
I want to see if Hunter Hines can get going this weekend. They got Queens, obviously, in start.
Big Hunter Hines guy.
Big Hunter Hines guy, man. It's just, I think they're going to need him to reach certainly the expectations the predictions I set out for them getting to Omaha. They're going to need him to get going, see if his confidence maybe is kind of getting back. Obviously, it was a rough start to the season. LSU, we kind of know what they are. Again, they'll just look to stay hot, tie up loose ends. Ole Miss with Hunter Elliott going on Friday. Again, tie up loose ends with them. Judd Udemark staying hot. Yeah, I mean, I think Harrison, everybody else. I mean, Vandy Xavier could be kind of interesting. Xavier's very weathered, so they're not going to see. I mean, they've seen good teams at this point. So, and give credit to Xavier for in the non-conference being willing to go to Nashville and take on Vandy for a 3-game set. But
Xavier's postseason team not too far long ago.
Yeah. And then, hey, can Mizzou win a series? I don't know that they can, but
is this the series they win?
It's Binghamton. I don't know, but hey, I mean, they lost 2 or 3 in the Andre Dawson Classic or whatever. So, it's
over under 4.5. Chris, SEC wins.
Yeah. That's the number. I think I'm going under right now for SEC wins from Mizzou, but we'll see. Things can change. You never know.
I'm riding the under too. 4.
Yeah, I think we got to go under. Guys, again, appreciate you all tuning in. There's tons of comments. We're going to close out the show with your questions. And Harrison, again, it's just like us. Even when I say it's a lighter show, lighter weekend, here we are approaching an hour on the show. We just love talking ball, man. We appreciate y'all.
Of course.
Let's see. We're going to run through some of these comments. Stephen Haynes, Levi Clark is going to be the best player in college baseball this year as a true freshman. He's one of the best. He's one of the best sluggers, no doubt.
He's top 3 freshman right now in the country. That's not a question.
Yeah.
And I've watched him play in person and was just very impressed, especially the size and makeup of him as a freshman coming on campus and, being a force to be reckoned with and earning more and more at-bats every time he gets a chance.
Yeah, really excited to see him down the road, Harrison. Obviously, you've had a look at him in person. I have not yet.
He's huge.
Yeah, I will be getting there to Knoxville. Really excited for that. Brant says, Danny Dickinson is that dude. Dude, he is, man. Just drip swag. Red hot. Drip swag. So here's a good one. David Speaks asks Harrison, who's the one ACC team that would give my Vols problems? FSU, UNC, Clemson, or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame's off to a heater. I think they're 8-1 after last weekend. I'm going to go UNC. I think they're the most complete team, and the starting pitching staff is really good. I mean, you could say Florida State for the same exact reasons, but I don't know. I think I'm leaning barely UNC right now. But that's a tough question. But definitely those 2 teams I think are a little bit more ahead of Clemson at the moment. But Clemson talent-wise is up there as well. It's the 3-headed monster, the ACC right now. With the struggles.
How about no mention? I'm about to say, how about no mention of Virginia in that question?
Yeah. Don't count them out, though. I'm not counting them out. I'm just saying right now.
It's just, I would have never thought we'd be having a conversation like that and not mention Virginia.
Yeah, because I
mentioning
said
Notre Dame before Virginia.
The biggest team in the ACC giving a chance to ruin the SEC streak of 5 straight championships.
I would agree. We both said in the preseason they were going to be the biggest threat. Let's continue, Harrison. I want to go to this one. Brant says, how big is Tennessee's baseball stadium in feet in the outfield? Harrison, I'm sure you see it on social media. How funny do you think it is that essentially every other fan base has gotten to the point where they just try to pick on Tennessee for playing in a Cracker Jack box. That's why they hit so many home runs. I find it very funny, to be honest with you. It's
Chris, I can attest to this personally from being at Lindsey Nelson watching games, but B, I've also walked from center field to home plate and know how far it's really not that small. It's okay. It's not the biggest SEC ballpark, but I think the ball just flies there. And when you look at how strong and how elite barrel hitters that the Tennessee Volunteers lineup is, it's a lot of things that add together that, people are like, oh, maybe it's just it's a Cracker Jack box. But I mean, ask Gavin Keelan in the juice box. If you're talking about how small Lindsey Nelson is, every single one of those home runs he hit would have probably gone in the river in Knoxville.
I mean, it's they literally went to a pro ballpark and still were hitting mamos. So I mean,
I think they should have quieted it into that statement for sure.
Yeah, it is funny to see though. It's very entertaining, but I would just say if you're an opposing fan, be very careful talking all that shit because they might come to your ballpark next and hit it where you didn't know it could go. I'll put it that way. Ryan says, sticking with the Vols, there's Tennessee and then everybody else defending national champs until somebody beats them. A&M is definitely overrated. I mean, Harrison, we talked about this, and I think you and I both agreed Tennessee, we thought they should be the number 1 team in college baseball. I mean, I have them number 1 in my power rankings. I think you got to put respect on the Vols, man. To your point, they are the defending champs. I mean,
they also are undefeated and haven't struggled against any team. It feels like
no, not really.
I guess you can. I don't say struggle, but we're in a close game with Arizona. But
yeah, I mean they've had their moments, but
that's not Omaha at home.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Chinook, our friends at Chinook, the beard on Harrison is dialed today. Hey, conference plays approaching, man.
Crispy.
Harrison knows it's conference
Appreciate
play
it,
beard
Chinook.
season.
Appreciate it.
Let's see. Chinook, tons of questions. I'm trying to find the best ones here.
There was one that I saw. If I find it, I'll highlight it.
Here we go. Football helmet and the Masters Cup on a baseball.
There it is.
We live in an upside down world. Love the Masters Cup, by the way. Let's not lose sight of that. I mean, listen, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm still working.
Don't tease me. I'll pull out some Masters.
I'm still working on the batting helmet.
I will be there in April. Don't worry. I will be at the Masters.
I'm still working on the batting helmet. So,
Chinook says, the store. Go to Academy.
I know. I say I'm working on it. I was
play against sports. There, go to play against sports.
FSU's the only team without a ship that belongs as a blue blood. 40 years straight of 40-plus wins, never be broken. That's a really good point. It's crazy they have
100% agree.
Crazy they have
the legacy Mike Martin built.
Here we go. We got a bold prediction here, Harrison. Austin says, Alabama won the series last year against Tennessee, and they're going to do the exact same thing this year. I mean, who knows?
Didn't they sweep last year?
Who knows? No, I think they took. I think
Tennessee took Sunday. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, they took 2 of 3 because it was like not a walk off, but it was like a 9th inning. Like they stole that game, which was obviously a big deal. Crazy to think, by the way, last year Tennessee lost a series and still won 22 SEC games. That really just goes
but to mention Brant's comment earlier about the size of Tennessee's field in feet, I don't think it's labeled anywhere. I don't think they care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the bats don't care.
Yeah,
baseballs get crushed still, and the players park right behind the field. So I think that's, their own damage. But
yeah, let's see. Austin also says Justin LeBron, Golden Spikes, 9 home runs and counting. Chinook follows up. Golden Spikes Award presented by Chinook Seedery. Indeed, it is presented by Chinook. So good stuff. I mean, dude, Justin LeBron is just crazy. So David says, Harrison, why did D1 put us number 2? LSU and Tennessee, is that for the SEC? Right. I mean, LSU was number 2 overall. Or excuse me, Tennessee. Tennessee was number 2 overall. LSU number 1. I mean, it's not like you're crazy if you think LSU's number 1.
No, okay. I'll answer this for sure, David. Great question. And I think it's because, and I talk about all the time about how I don't think D1 wants to make too big of changes in their rankings as a whole, but let alone preseason. And LSU had a really good weekend, and they were ahead of Tennessee. They weren't going to have, even as good as a weekend Tennessee had, they weren't going to jump LSU in D1's eyes, even though I think that Tennessee is the best team in the nation and the most complete team across the board in all facets of the game. But that is why that they didn't do that, I think. And like I said, and Chris, we've talked about that a lot, about how D1 baseball wants to be right about, their preseason, what they stick, I think, way too much to their preseason rankings. I really do. And this is why, David, you can look on my timeline. I post it every single week on about Monday, kind of midday afternoon, about my power rankings. And I do SEC. And if people want, I will do top 25 as a whole, like all conferences, but SEC power rankings of just basically my SEC rankings based on games only, no preseason. It's what I've seen and what the teams have showed in games. So, yeah. And I have Tennessee 1, LSU 2. It's really close, but I think Tennessee has just been more dominant on both sides of the ball all season long. And they haven't lost a game, and LSU has at home to Omaha.
Yeah, I mean, that alone, I think, is a good reason.
And the first game was really close too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, you can say 1A, 1B splitting hairs, but I just, even if they were both undefeated, Harrison, I would just say, like, with the way Tennessee has looked, like they're not missing a beat at all. I think you do just have to put some respect on the defending national champions. Like you know what I mean? Like, you got to give Tony Vitello and company, you got to tip the cap and give them the nod and say, you know what? They deserve to sit on the throne until someone knocks them off of it.
And that's exactly why I do, well, not that, but like that, this is exactly why this conversation, I do a power rankings based on games on field play only. I don't think anyone else that covers college baseball does this.
Yeah.
I know no one else in the SEC does. So
yeah,
I think it's worth checking it out and keeping an eye on, because like I said, I think sticking to preseason rankings too much is not good, but I don't think either team cares if they're 1 or 2. I really don't. And we know Hunter Inslee has told me personally, we were the number 1 team in the country last year for a while, and we were still hunting. We were the hunter.
We got 2 more left. Let's go to these 2 questions. Stephen Haynes, in the new landscape of NIL and transferring to Tennessee, peak at the right time for continued success in the coming years. Yeah, I would think so, and I think they've got the right coach for what the current landscape is. I mean, look at Tennessee's success in the portal, and tell me that they don't have the right infrastructure, right coach, right leadership. I think Tennessee's set up well for success for many, many years to come. David Speaks, last one, Harrison, does the LSU Tennessee series in Baton Rouge decide the SEC regular season champion?
Yeah, well, Tennessee does a number 3 2025 class recruiting this season. So behind LSU and Texas.
Yeah.
Say what you will. And I think 2024, they were top 3 as well. Or they're number 1 in 2020.
Yeah, they're not just crushing portal. They're crushing high school recruiting too. And again, NIL's playing a part in that. I mean, dude, here's the thing about Tennessee. I know this for a fact. Like, Tennessee will make the investment in all their sports. Like the Vols,
they've been number 3 since 2023. So 2023, 2024, 2025, they're top 3.
The Vols love winning more than anything. If you start putting together a winner, like they did the ticket increase, like the talent fee for football. And I know some people, probably a lot, maybe they're not like thrilled, but hey, Josh Heupel keeps putting a winner out there. Keep on with the talent fee. They will pay a talent fee. They don't give a damn as long as you're winning. So Tony Vitello keeps winning. Yeah, NIL I don't think is ever going to be a problem from the baseball.
But no, this is a good question from David too. Does the LSU Tennessee series in Baton Rouge decide the SEC regular season championship? I think it gives whoever wins it a massive leg up because that's head to head at the end of the day. But I don't think it decides. It's too early in the season to say it decides it.
Yeah, it's too early to say it decides it, Harrison. I mean, my pick to win the SEC was Arkansas. I think they're still obviously. Here's the thing, everybody.
My pick was LSU.
Yeah, everybody's in the thick of it. We haven't played a conference game yet, so
that means Missouri's in the thick of it still.
Well, let's not get too crazy. No, I mean it's still wide open. I mean, heck, man, an A&M could cut it on. God forbid. I don't think they will to the point.
On too.
I mean, you never know. It's going to be fun. That's going to do it, man. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Harrison, I appreciate your time. Guys, appreciate you all tuning in, man. Your comments, your questions, the engagement.
Yeah, great.
Really fun stuff. Really fun stuff. And a show that, again, I deemed as a lighter show turns out to be one of the most electric we've done to this point this season. And it's because of you guys. You love college baseball. We love college baseball. It makes these conversations really fun and exciting. And, again, we can't say thank you enough. So, Harrison, I'll give you the floor. Final thoughts here as we go into the final non-conference weekend of the 2025 season. Any final thoughts?
Last weekend to define roles and get guys opportunities in certain situations and get rolling on SEC play next weekend, trending upwards on a heater with guys, not like win-wise because that's just going to come with it, but how guys are playing, the confidence at the plate, the confidence in execution of their stuff on the mound.
Yeah. Final weekend to tie up loose ends. Final weekend to tune up and get ready for what's going to be an all-out war, Harrison, conference play for 10 straight weekends. We can't wait for it. It's going to be electric. Guys, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. By the way, make sure you tune in tomorrow night. Friday Night Spikes. We'll be back live, chopping it up myself. I would assume Harrison Fant. I would assume Jake McKeever. Y'all tune in. Somebody will be there, I can assure you. Either way, going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk all the SEC baseball, college baseball, break it all down, shoot the shit. You already know the drill. We'll go live, Facebook, X, YouTube, probably around 10 Eastern-ish, sometime when the action is wrapping up or is wrapped, if you will.
Maybe not. We won't go till about 1:30 again.
Yeah, we probably won't. Not
even though we had 1,000 people on at 1:30.
Yeah, not with the slate that we've got tomorrow night. But either way, hey, like I said, I mean, you never know, man. It could be sometimes when you have some of the lesser slates, that's when you have the most fun shows. You just never know. So again, either way, we will be there. Friday Night Spikes every Friday night. Check us out. Facebook, X, YouTube, podcast as well. It'll be there. And of course, the Windup will return Monday, noon Eastern. Y'all know the drill to recap everything that happened over the weekend and preview the midweek as well. Once again, thank y'all guys. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast or get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Harrison Fant, I'm Chris Phillips. This is the Windup. We're signing off. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you all on Friday Night Spikes.